different languages in the world have both distinctive and non-distinctive sounds. There are some examples, even in Spanish, where you can pronounce a certain word in a different way, and then you don't make any difference in the word. However, if you replace some of the sounds, you might be pronouncing a different word and then making or producing some type of confusion in the listener, right? So, for example, if you say hacer, and then you go to some towns in the countryside, and then you hear some people saying hacer, they are in fact pronouncing the same word. They are referring to the same word. However, they are, changing the silent H, which is supposed to be in general regular Spanish pronunciation, for a J, right? And then that's just the way they pronounce it. In that case, hacer doesn't change the meaning, it just changes the pronunciation. So in this case, we can say that, for example, in that case, the H and the J, the mute H and the J, are non-distinctive sound. Okay?
Okay, Prof. Isn't that the free variation?
Yes, exactly. That's why I told you this is a topic that you are already familiar with, but we didn't discuss, formally in class. So today I will bring you some it's like a really quick review, and then a practice for you to put into practice, redundantly sounding, but yes, put into practice what you read before and whatever I am about to explain. However, in other situations, if I say, for example, para, okay, in Spanish, I say para, and then I say pasa, right? I'm changing the R, the ere in this case, for an S, then I am making a new word, right? It is not the same saying para than saying pasa. So I am changing the word. So in that case, replacing one sound for another, having as a result a new word, then I am, I can say that I'm using what we call a distinctive sound, right? So this is an example, right? Distinctive sounds usually use phonemes. Okay, phonemes, remember, phonemes are simply sounds. The all those are phonemes, like single phonemes. So if I replace one phoneme for another phoneme and have, at the end I have a new word, then obviously that phoneme I replaced I replace the other one for is a distinctive sound, right? So for example, I have mop and top, right? Mop and top, the and the t in this case are distinctive sounds, right? How do we know? Because mop is one thing, top is another thing. They mean totally different things. In this case, this is what we call minimal pairs, okay? You already know that. This is what we call minimal pair. Minimal pair refers to two words, in this case, words, right? Two words that have exactly the same number of sounds. As you can see, 3 sounds and then 3 sounds. And they only differ in one of those sounds. It doesn't matter how many sounds they have. It could be 2 sounds, like for example, B and T, right? Or B and C. Those two words, like the verb be and the verb see, they only have 2 sounds and they differ in only one. So in this case, they are also minimal pairs. The thing here is that they should have, or they must have, the same number of sounds, okay? And at the end, they should be different in only one sound that occurs in the same position in both words, exactly the same position. In this case, the T and the M, okay, the T and the M, they both occur at the beginning of the word. The other two sounds are exactly the same, so they are minimal pairs. Why do I say this? Because if I say, for example, mop, and then I say mops, right? Obviously, they have, or let's say, pan and span. They are not minimal pairs. Okay, definitely not minimal pairs. Why? First, because they don't have the same number of sounds. Second, because they have more than one difference. So in this case, they are not minimal pairs. So you need to be careful. You need to be careful with this. Okay. So in this case, they are contrastive. Okay, or distinctive. Because when you replace one for the other, you have a different word. Okay. In Spanish, it happens also as para and pasa, pero and perro. They are distinctive. We can say that the ere and the r are distinctive sound. They are totally different phonemes. They are not variations of one phoneme, right? They are different phonemes, because if I replace one for the other, I make a different word. Pero and perro, caro, carro, right? So they are different phonemes. What happens in other situations where what? Yes. Any questions?
Professor, what is the difference between phoneme and allophone?
Yes, that's a really good question, and this is precisely what I am about to explain. But that's a really good question. So a phoneme is a sound, right? A totally different sound, like all the sounds we have seen so far, like the alveolar sounds, the nasal sounds. So if I say, for example, moon with m bilabial, moon, but then I say nun with n, I am saying a totally different word because I changed one sound. So a phoneme is synonym of one sound. Okay. However, allophone is pretty much this, what we have on the screen right now. So we say, for example, non-distinctive, right? So allophones. That's a topic, or that's a term that we already searched for. We already read about, which was for the assignment. So all of you mentioned allophones. So it is impossible to talk about a complementary distribution and free variation without mentioning the word allophone. So I am about to explain what really this term stands for. Okay,
Professor,
allophones.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Yes.
Maybe I got you wrong, but I understood last class you explained something similar. Like, in order to have a minimal pair, the sounds that change in the two words should be like in the same category. Like, for instance, the T is
Oh,
a voiceless alveolar stop, but then the M is a nasal sound. So
okay. Okay, yes. I know what you mean. If you go, I think it was in the first or second class. I sent you the slide presentation. There are two definitions of minimal pairs, right? So there's one which relates to words. That's the one that I'm referring to today, right? Two words pronounced the same, just one difference, and that difference occurs in the same position in both words. The other definition is having two sounds with exactly the same feature. I'm not saying words, okay? Just keep words apart for this explanation. It's simply a sound. If I write the sound T, okay, let me clarify this so you can. I'll go back to the presentation in a minute. Okay. So I have the sound T. T is a voiceless alveolar stop. This sound also has a minimal pair. Okay, I mean the sound. I'm not talking about the word. I'm just saying a sound, right? The sounds, that's I explained that when I said, for example, the word baduel for, you know, somebody that is sick, right? And this is the importance of learning this type of things, because you will find explanation, logical explanation as to why some sounds might be replaced by others. It makes sense. Why does it make sense? Because they have more relation between them than any other sounds. For example, if I say, for example, T, I need to find, let's say, let's write it here, minimal pair, right? Minimal pair, but this is with sounds, right? Not with words. I need to find a sound that has almost the same features, the same classification as T, but let's say differing in only one of the classifications or one of the features. In this case, I'd say voiceless alveolar stop. Okay, so if I write D, okay, the, now I have a voiced alveolar stop. So D or the is a minimal pair of T or T, because they have two characteristics in common, but only one difference, and that's basically the definition of minimal pairs, right? Two sounds that are exactly the same except for one feature. But what happens if I write, and let me, I'm sorry, let me just take one of the examples from the workshop, right? So you can see why it is not a minimal pair. Some of you wrote this as a minimal pair. Okay? Why they are not minimal pairs? Let me see. Both are voiceless. Okay? Both are voiceless. So they have that in common, right? However, the place of articulation is different. One is alveopalatal. Obviously, they have the palatal in common, but this is alveopalatal. There is one more sound there, and this is a palatal sound. Okay? And this is an affricate sound, and this is a fricative sound. So the manner of articulation is also different. So in this case, they only have one thing in common, which is voiceless and voiceless, right? So the voicing is the only thing they have in common. So these two are definitely not minimal pairs. However, these two sounds are minimal pairs. Why? Both are voiceless. One is alveolar and the other one is palatal. However, the S is also fricative. Okay, so we have two things in common. So voicing and manner of articulation. They have two characteristics in common, but they only differ in one, which is the manner, the place of articulation. So these two are minimal pairs. Okay? The same as ch and t. Okay, the ch, the alveolar ch, and the t. Some people wrote t as a minimal pair. Well, they are not minimal pairs because the t is alveolar and is also stop. The other one is alveopalatal affricate. So there are two differences there. Is it clear?
Yes, Professor. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so remember then, minimal pair can apply for both. It can apply for words and it can also apply for sounds. For sounds is simply to try to get some explanations, for something that happens in the language. In this case, well, again, the example of somebody that cannot pronounce nasal sounds usually, changes that nasal sound for another one, which show almost the same characteristics. Okay, that is basically it. So, continuing with the explanation, right? So these are distinctive sounds, phonemes. Okay, and then we have. Hold on a second. For some reason, I don't want it to go too far ahead. Okay, it's kind of like frozen. Let me see. It's not switching for some reason. Okay, anyways, while it switches, you also asked about allophones, right? So what is the difference between a phoneme and an allophone? Well, the phoneme is simply the sound itself, right? That's like the ABC, like when you go to the alphabet and you see the letters of the alphabet. Okay, those are letters. Well, in the IPA, when you see the chart of the sounds, those are phonemes. Phonemes include both consonant and sounds, and obviously the glides, which are either of them, right? Um, the allophones. Oh my God! For some reason, it's not. Let me share again. Then see if it works. Okay, there you go. Let me share again. Okay, I think there. Okay, there you go. Good. Then now we have a non-distinctive sound, which is mostly what we call allophones, right? So the different variations or pronunciations of a specific sound. So okay, let me give you an example of an allophone. You wrote this word in your workshops, or I mean, I'm sorry, in your assignment. Okay, most of you wrote this word. That's a good example, right? I don't know if you can see it. Let me explain that. Okay, this word has different realizations of this of the same sound. In this case, this one. So the first one is data, right? Or data. This is one of the first pronunciations of this word. Another one is data or data, right? Another one is the same but with flap and then another one which is this one with the flap okay. So all of these are possible pronunciations of these same words. So I can say data, I can say data, I can say data or data. They are all okay. So we can say that these two, for example, are both allophones of the same phoneme. We still don't know which is the phoneme, okay? We don't know exactly which phoneme is in fact the actual phoneme of the word, but these two are definitely two allophones of that phoneme. So if we take that, let's say, oh, the correct pronunciation is with this phoneme, then we have two possible phonemes for that in this situation. Okay? If we take if we take this as the phoneme, then we also have, that would be a very deep research to see which of the two phonemes were, or the two allophones was pronounced at the beginning, or at the, in the origins of that word. That's a very deep research. However, what we are sure about is that these two are allophones. Why they are allophones? Because they don't change the meaning of the word. Okay? They don't change, which means that and they are exactly the same in this situation. So they both belong to only one phone or one phoneme, right? So they are simply variations of that phoneme. Another example, which you wrote also, was the P, as in, for example, pin and spin, right? The first word has this P, which is a plosive, aspirated P, right? And the second has a regular P. These two are allophones of the same phoneme, which is the phoneme P. Why do we say that these are allophones? Because they belong to only one phoneme. They are simply different realizations of the phoneme, different possible ways to pronounce that same phoneme. What happens? If a native speaker of English learns Spanish, he will apply, okay, the same pronunciation rules that he has in his language into the new language he is speaking. So he will say, oh, you know what? Pen has this P at the beginning. This is the pronunciation of the initial P in my language. So I would say then perro. Which is not part of the Spanish pronunciation alphabet, okay? It's definitely not even part of the system, the pronunciation system in Spanish. We don't have that aspirated P. But believe it or not, it does not change the meaning of the word. So if it doesn't change the meaning of the word, then it could be an allophone of the same phoneme. However, it does not exist in Spanish. But that person is pronouncing it this way, but it doesn't change the meaning of the word. The same would happen the other way around. If a Spanish speaker learns English, usually we have a very hard time trying to make the initial p, right, aspirated. So we say something like, oh, that's my pen, right? Instead of saying, that's my pen, we say, oh, that's my pen. And then we are applying this pronunciation in a situation where this one should be used. However, we are not changing the sound. I mean, we're not changing the meaning of the word. So it's simply a possible or another possible way to pronounce that word. It doesn't mean it is correct, because we should apply the rules in the language we are intervening. However, in this case, since it doesn't change the meaning of the word, then it is simply a variation of this phoneme. So these two are allophones. In another way, I will take the example of one of your assignments. and this way it would be easier to understand. Do you know this guy?
Professor,
Yes.
another name to call allophones, we can use phonetic realization, as you are.
Um, I'd say phonetics realization is simply just a way to say it. It's just like phonetic representation of phonetic pronunciation. So allophones are just different ways to pronounce one sound. Okay, possible ways to pronounce one sound in one word. So not changing the word, obviously. Okay, so you can say, for example, the T and the flapper, or the D as the and the flapper. They are allophones of the same phoneme, because I can say city and I can say city and still keep the same meaning, right? So those simply two forms of saying one thing. In this case, this example is clearer. I think everybody knows Clark Kent, right? Obviously, I'm not talking about any phonetician or linguist. I'm just talking about the character of the, you know, uh, cartoons, the comic books, and whatever. So Clark Kent has two identities. So one is Clark Kent, and the other one is Superman. It doesn't matter which identity he will take, he will always be Clark Kent. Okay? He's always Clark Kent, which I don't know, for some reason nobody recognizes him with glasses, but anyways, that's another point. But yes, Clark Kent is like the main phoneme. Okay? This is the main phoneme. Clark Kent. It doesn't matter which form he takes, he will never stop being Clark Kent. Even though he's wearing Superman or work, office uh, clothing or outfit, it will be the same thing. So it does not matter if you call Superman Clark Kent. Like if you see Superman on the street and they say, "Oh, hey Clark," he will say, "Hey, what's up?" Because he's the same guy. Okay. So it doesn't change. And even if he is wearing office outfit, he's still strong as Superman. So if he wants to kill somebody, if he wants to destroy something, even though he's wearing office clothing, he can do it because he's strong, right? So it's the same. So we are talking about these two different representations of only one guy, which is Clark Kent. It's exactly the same with the sounds. It doesn't matter which sound you will take, as long as you don't change the meaning of the word. They are allophones of only one phoneme. Okay? Is it clear?
Yeah. Professor,
Yes.
a question. And then what happened with the word behind and behind?
It's the same. The same, yes. Either transcribing or pronouncing lax E or schwa in the word behind or behind is exactly the same. Okay? Because the meaning of the word doesn't change. So you can say, for example, let me write the other one. Okay? And it's the same. So you're talking about the same word. So these two are just simply allophones of one phoneme. Usually schwa is a variation of some. So I would say maybe the main phoneme here might be the lax E. Okay, the lax E as the main phoneme, and then these two are just two possible realizations of maybe. Okay, I'm just saying maybe, because the situation the spelling and everything suggests that this should be the phoneme. But if you pronounce this, it's okay too. So it's okay. It's just like Superman and Clark Kent, right? It's like there is a fire, okay? For example, there is a building in fire. You expect from Clark Kent, you expect Superman to show up and help people and save everybody in the building, right? Superman. However, if Superman didn't bring his outfit for work and he is just wearing Clark Kent's outfit, he can still do the job. Like he can simply go and save people even though he's not wearing Superman's outfit. So it's the same here. So maybe the main phoneme is E, but can also do the job. So he comes in and out if depending on the person, right? So is it clear? So allophones, just different ways to pronounce a single sound, not changing the meaning. If you change the meaning, then that's another thing, okay? Okay, let me give you one more example. These two are different sounds, okay? These two are different sounds. However, depending on some dialects, these two can be allophones of one single phoneme, which is this. For example, everybody knows that this word is pronounced with th, right? You can find it in the dictionary and everything, right? So you say think. No problems, right? However, if you go to some Black American neighborhoods, let me write here in case you want more information about it. They usually speak this type of dialect called Ebonics. They have their own rules, they have their own sounds, they have, stuff like, it's possible in that case, which is the one that you usually have in rap. If you like rap music, you will be hearing something like I be here. Instead of saying I am here, I say I'll be here for you, right? So that's just an example. It is possible in that dialect. But in that dialect, this specific sound does not exist. So they usually don't say think. They say think. Okay? For us, that is wrong. For them, it is right. And they are talking about the same single word. So in this case, we can say that t in that dialect can work as an allophone of th in that dialect because it doesn't change the meaning of the word. However, in our dialect, it might be different. In Ebonics, they can say tank, okay? Oh, thanks, okay, thanks or whatever. So in that case, they can switch this for another, and then simply we have two homophones like tank is the tanke, and then thanks, which is for just saying, oh, appreciate it, right? But in our dialect, if I pronounce this tank, I am pronouncing a totally different word. So for us in our dialect, these are not allophones of the same phoneme. Okay? It's simply two different phonemes. If I replace one for the other, I am making a totally different word. So we should pronounce this. So basically, allophones can show up based on the dialects that you speak. Okay, there might be some allophones that only occur in some dialects, whereas there are some other dialects that simply do not uh, share that same idea of having them as allophones. So that is simply like a general idea of distinctive and non-distinctive. In other words, distinctive sounds, regular phonemes. If you change one for the other and the meaning of the word changes, then it is a phoneme. Allophones are non-distinctive, which means it doesn't matter which one you use, you will not change the meaning of a word. So if you're not sure if you're talking about an allophone or a phoneme, just switch one for the other and then see if you come up with a new word, or if you keep the same meaning of the word after you replace those two sounds. Okay, like in this case, aspirated p and unaspirated p. Okay, as in pin and spin. If I say pin and spin, I don't change the meaning of the word. They are simply allophones, right? But it's just my preference of having one aspirated and the other one non-aspirated, where it should be the other way around, obviously. But that's simply another example. Oh my! For some reason, this is giving me some trouble, but it's okay. We will go ahead. Okay, and this is okay.